Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel because spreading the goodness will create good vibes. Today I invite my friend Craig Parsons to share about the tips to answer TOEFL questions. So if you like to elevate your English skill and prepare for your TOEFL examination, watch this one. Check it out! So many people join in this live, so
that's great.
I would like to say welcome, and we are now talking about the tips how to answer questions in TOEFL. And also, if you can join for the whole session 1 hour, you can see in my YouTube channel Anggie Subijanto, ANGGIE SUBIJANTO. For those of you who is now applying Australia Award Scholarship, you may ask me in my YouTube channel and comment asking about how to join my WhatsApp group. Every day I put some material and supporting material to support your Australia Award Scholarship application. Guys, you need to elevate your education, enhance your English skill, and widen your thinking and open up your mind to be a better leader in the future. Because no one will take the leadership if not you, young people. And then I'm going to read again from Agung. So he said that this is the continue of my previous question. How long or months or year that normally we can master have a good skill in TOEFL if we consistent with our learning each hours a day?
It's a really good question. It's hard to answer. I'd love to be able to tell you that it's 1 year or just 6 months if you study every day. But it really depends on how much you practice and the variety of practice that you make. So if you spend a lot of time studying and working from a book and you study over the course of the year, it might be that you're not really progressing with your listening skills. So you might know all of the vocabulary and all of the grammar, but when you go to a shopping center to try to get some lunch and buy a new pair of shoes, you might struggle because especially here in Australia we have so many different accents. We speak very quickly. There are all these aspects of language that you need to consider and master when you're learning a language. So time is a factor for sure, and your dedication to your study is a factor. But there's a saying in English that practice makes perfect, and you really need to practice as much as possible. Seize the opportunity, work with your other students, go out into the world and practice your English, and this is what will help you with your mastery. Because in my personal view, you learn 10% of it in the classroom and in the books, and 90% of it in real practicalities. So I used the surfing analogy before. You could think about it like being a car mechanic. You can read as many books about a car and looking at all of the diagrams and really understanding how a car works. But until you open that bonnet and play around with the engine and test drive it, and you need to try and fail, that's really what's going to help you learn. So I understand that most people here, they want to hear about time frames, like if I study for 6 months I'm going to speak English perfectly. That's really not how it works. It really works through your practice and how you absorb a language in the real world.
Yeah, I do really agree with Craig's point that we learn every day, and even now I'm here in Australia. While I'm studying my master, I still study English. And even my friends like Craig or Stephen that is shared about tips to answer IELTS in the Angie's talk first session, they still try to fix my English whenever I do wrong grammar or wrong words. So study and practice makes perfect, and study is not only from your book or in classroom, but also from the talks, conversation, chit chat, or even watching movies. It can be a learning process. So as I mentioned that don't be shy, also don't be resistant to speak English with foreigner. If you meet foreigner in Indonesia, whenever you live, you say hi and you try to speak with them, and it's gonna be a good opportunity for you to experience a new level of English, because once you speak with foreigner, it's gonna be different exercise that you have with if you compare to you exercise with Indonesian to study English. Before we go to the next questions, yeah, please, he wants to turn on the lights. So Agung said, yeah, sure, as you said that Indonesian has no any conjugation. Hey, that's why it's little hard to understand English grammar structure. Yes, it is. It's very different, because you know what, I'm going to tell you that I also study Arabic before, and Arabic is much more complicated, and you need to remember the whole word, because that is different between muzakkar and muannas, which means female and male. Also in female and male, they have very different saraf and nahu, which means like now, tomorrow, yesterday, and for only 1%, 2%, 3%, even more than 3%. So welcome to language skill learning. So yes, and I want to read another question from Miss Widiasa. No new noun, regular, irregular verbs. What do you think?
Yep, so we have regular and irregular verbs. So run is a good example of an irregular verb. So instead of, we don't say I runned, just like I cooked, we say I ran to the shop. So yeah, we have a lot. There's probably lists online somewhere or in your books that will list what those irregular verbs are. Unfortunately, there's no rule to irregular verbs, so it's not necessarily the spelling of a verb that will indicate whether it's an irregular verb. It's one of those really weird quirks of English, where some verbs don't follow the same rules.
Yeah, and then also I'm managing the time now. I'm highlighting that we only have 19 more minutes. I would like to read again the questions from my group member in WhatsApp for Australia Award Scholarship Preparation. So Mbak Sonki Sinaga, she asked, can you please give us 5 easy tricks to answer listening, reading, and speaking questions? I think in general tips we already talked about in the beginning of this session, but maybe you have 1 or 2 points that you want to add for this question.
Okay, so should we start with listening first?
Sure.
Yeah, so listening, like I said, English is the most difficult language from a listening perspective, because our pronunciation changes so much. We have so many different sounds. Combinations of letters provide even more sounds. So there are millions and millions of unique sounds in English, whereas in Spanish or in Indonesian, there's much less spectrum of sounds because the combination of letters doesn't change the sound of those letters. It doesn't merge. So a lot of international students who I meet at language exchanges here, they struggle with listening, and it's not because they're not great students. In fact, they're awesome students. It's just that English is hard, and the listening aspect of it can prove very, very difficult, because of what I just talked about with the different sounds, but also in the pace and the way that we talk very, very, very quickly. So my recommendation for listening is really to listen, and listen to as much as you can, and have a reference to your native language as a point of reference. So, watch movies, watch with subtitles in Indonesian or in Spanish, and listen to podcasts. Maybe listen to a podcast, and if you can find a translation for it in your own language, then listen to it again. You can listen to pop songs, and every pop song now has every single translation available, on Google. So you can go and listen to Adele or whatever your favorite song is. And you'll even get, you can listen to that song and look at the lyrics in your own language, and you'll get something more out of that song because you'll understand what they really mean in their message as well. So that's the listening part.
Mm-hmm.
The next part is written. So written is also really important because of all the things that we talked about with grammar, conjugation of verbs, splitting your sentences up using punctuation, which has very, very different uses in different languages. So you need to think about that: paragraph structures, sentence structures, contexts, the order of adjectives and nouns also can change. I know in Spanish it's the adjective first and then the noun. So it'd be like instead of blue sky, it'll be like sky blue. So all of those things, all of those rules and grammar rules that you'll need to think about for your writing. The next aspect was verbal, I think.
Yeah.
So verbal, again with English, pronunciation is very, very different, and the way you move your mouth for some words, you won't have done it before. So the sh sound doesn't exist in Spanish. And I know when I was teaching in Colombia, the way we got around that was we all got like lollies to put them on our tongue to try and hold the tongue in place to make the sh sound, because it really doesn't exist there. So there's lots of different exercises that maybe you'll go through in your class, but you really need to practice the sounds. The vocabulary will come, that's all fine, but the hardest thing about like your speaking aspect of your study will be to practice like articulating those different sounds. Yeah.
And the last one is reading.
Yeah, so reading, well, reading is luckily you can do that without having to engage with other people. You can take a book and read. The great thing about technology now is that you can read a paragraph, and what I often do is Google Translate has a camera feature, so you can hover your phone over the paragraph in the book, and Google Translate will translate it into whatever language you like.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I just know that now.
Yeah, so the Google app, you might see an image icon on your Google app, and what that can do is it can translate the paragraph for you. Maybe we can do a separate video on that later, but I find that really, really useful if I'm reading something in a language. Yeah, I can just hover that over, and Google, you just need to kind of hover hover over, and Google will interpret the language and translate it to whichever language you want.
So maybe in this reading style, you can use Google, but don't be spoiled. You need to try first with your own translation, and whether it's correct or not, you can check it through Google. So you don't need to use Google directly, so you don't need to try first with your own translation and then check it, double check with that. That's all the video of the tips for answering TOEFL questions. And if you have any questions around this theme, you can put in the comment below. And if you think that this video is very useful, you can like, share, comment, and subscribe. So that's all for today, guys, and I'll see you soon in the next video. See you!